What? 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 What?
Welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Forget that I can smart, so I was in the show. All right, we've had a really good intro. I was going back and forth with Stone Cold. I actually in that little brief moment that we had there for a second when you guys were talking about it, Landris is right. I was telling the secret of the Flyers' big plan, but now since that happened, I can't reveal it. I can reveal it once, but now I can't do it a second time. But I said, welcome into the show. I hope everybody's having a great day. And of course, in case you missed it, today is Austin 316 Day.
What?
I said it's Austin 316 Day.
What?
Said it's Austin 316 Day.
What?
Said it's Austin 316 Day.
What?
And then I showed, see, this is where we lose some of the magic here. This is where I revealed the Austin 316 shirt. Now, for some of you, you may be math weenies, and you enjoy Pi Day 3.14. And so you enjoy March 14th, and maybe that's your special day. But for me, it's 316 Day, where we pay homage to Stone Cold Steve Austin. It is the time where we sit back as a group, and hopefully everybody remembered to leave out a 6-pack of beer and opened a can of whoop-ass for Stone Cold to find by the fireplace this morning. And if you didn't, he might stomp a mud hole. So, anyway, happy Austin 316 Day. We have a very interesting-ish show going on today because we're kind of in a holding pattern here, aren't we? In some way. We're sort of in a little bit of a holding pattern. If you're a Flyers fan, you watch them lose in a shootout 2-1 on Saturday. Flyers don't play again until Wednesday, so you're in a little bit of a holding pattern. If you're a Sixers fan, well, you're kind of in an indefinite holding period until some combination of Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid get out there together again, because without that, like, what exactly do you have? Now, it is kind of worth noting that the Sixers have put together 2 straight wins after dropping a 22-point contest on the road against Detroit. But they did win on Saturday. They actually got the winning juju going in the Xfinity Mobile Arena on Saturday with a 104-97 win over the Nets, which I believe led Nick Nurse to say he wants to see VJ Edgecombe take 20 shots a night without Maxey, Paul George, Joel Embiid in the lineup. Edgecombe went out on Sunday and put up 18 shots, went 1 of 5 from downtown, had 18 points from the field. You know what? Like, all things considered, you say, all right, pretty solid. He had a nice clutch shot late in this game in the fourth quarter. And Edgecombe addressed post-game some of the issues that he's going through, including the fact that without Tyrese Maxey in the lineup, he needs to be more assertive. And I think if you watch this team and you're cognizant of what's actually happening on the court at any given time, it's pretty clear that VJ Edgecombe is not the ball handling expert you might have wanted, although I don't think when they drafted him, they expected him to be that. I will note that it probably would be helpful at a time where you are without your, best player, Tyrese Maxey. It would be nice if you had a young point guard who could handle the ball and could run the offense and could play off of VJ Edgecombe's strengths and, maybe hit a few threes a game. It's a shame they didn't have a guy like that. If they did, they certainly didn't trade him for slop and have their goober of a president of basketball ops come out and say that they clearly sold high on him. Now, of course, the Sixers wouldn't do that. That would never happen. But what we're seeing right now out of VJ Edgecombe, hopefully, are some solid steps. And at the same time, you're seeing a guy in Quentin Grimes who this team very clearly made the choice. I mean, if you play this one out, the Sixers very clearly believe that Quentin Grimes is going to be the better player between he and Jared McCain. Now, McCain was on a much more affordable contract, and it's been known, right, going back to last offseason when free agency was coming up, that Quentin Grimes was going to be looking for a big payday. And so what did he do on Sunday? He dropped 31 points. Didn't have a great game from downtown, only went 1 of 4. But on the whole, he's picked up the scoring load. And so if you are looking for a little bit of positivity, if you don't want to live in the world where I do, where we go, how the hell do you trade Jared McCain for little to nothing of value? First round pick can be swell if it works out. God knows what that'll end up being, or if it's going to be part of a package for something else. If you look at Quentin Grimes, you say to yourself, all right, in 3 of his last 4 games, he's had 23 or more points. In the 2 games over the weekend, he averaged 29.5 points from the field. He had 28 on Saturday, 31 on Sunday. And again, in neither game was he particularly effective from beyond the arc. That didn't happen. But yet he's still finding a way to fill it up. And with Tyrese Maxey out, that's going to be critical. If this Sixers team wants to somehow remain in or around the playoff picture or the play-in picture, right, they're going to need to get massive contributions out of both VJ Edgecombe, Quentin Grimes, and then when Paul George comes back, he's got to be on it. Now, it did come out this weekend that Paul George will not need a ramp-up period. They seem to believe that when Paul George's suspension is up, he's going to be in great shape and ready to go, ready to crack on and get back in it. Now, you have to hope that that's the case. I certainly hope it's the case. I ultimately would like to see the Sixers do something of note here. And then at the same time, you say to yourself, well, if you look at the other way, remember on Friday's show, I did the breakdown from the Flyers side of things. If you want them to make the playoffs, you need more than 20 points, probably need 24, 25 points to have a realistic shot of making the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. But if you're going to try to get into that top 10 or so of the lottery on the NHL side, you'd have to lose a considerable number of games to get there. And I said I think it's probably more plausible that they make a playoff-ish run and come up a few points short than they end up in the lottery. The Sixers side of things is very interesting, right? Like, they currently are in contention for a playoff spot. And remember, if their pick that they're going to have to give up to Oklahoma City, I think it's top 4 protected. This was the pick that the Sixers sent to Oklahoma City to get off of the Al Horford contract. So this pick that the Sixers have, that they're likely going to have to give to the Thunder, is only top 4 protected. Now, if you're a psycho like me, and you are trying to plan out what this thing is going to look like in a post-Paul George and post-Joel Embiid world, well, then maybe you do feel better about it. Maybe you do. Like, maybe you want to see the bottom fall out on the Sixers, but right now they're 6 games over 500. In order for you to even remotely come close to getting into the conversation about moving up somewhere in the top 4, you probably need to finish somewhere around 9th, which is where Chicago's at right now. Chicago's 13 games under 500. You're not getting there. You're not. I don't see any conceivable way. They've got 24 games left, right? No. 14. Is it 4? Hold on. 68. Is that it? They got 14 games. Yeah, they're screwed. Screwed. I mean, you could hope that the Sixers miss the playoffs, and if you are in the lottery, right, if you finish at 14th, where Atlanta is right now, and Atlanta's pick would convey to the Spurs, they're 5 games over 500. Realistically, for the Sixers, if they were to bottom out here over the last 14 games or so of the season, they could probably get close to where Portland and Golden State are, where you're 4 or even 3 games under 500. Maybe they can get around there. And if you finish at 11th, where Portland is right now, you'd be at a 9.4% chance of getting a top 4 pick. But that's it. So if that's what you want, and if you want the bottom to fall out on the Sixers, it really has to fall out in a huge way. I mean, like, we're talking about if there are 14 games left, the Sixers have to lose like 9 or 10 of them to have any shot of getting even a snowball's chance in hell opportunity of like keeping their pick this year. Otherwise, it's lost. So on the Sixers side of things, like, I'm very much invested in the idea of they're not getting that pick. I don't need Oklahoma City to get a particularly good one. So, like, the hell with it. Win as many games as you can. Quentin Grimes, you want to light it up? You want to fill it up? You want to get yourself a big contract, whether it's with the Sixers or someone else? Have at it, fella. VJ Edgecombe, you want to go out there and do your thing? By all means, fella, have at it. Paul George gets back. He wants to eat. Go ahead. Tyrese Maxey comes back. Wants to make up for lost time. Go ahead. Joel Embiid comes back. Wants to eat. Go ahead. I still am resolute in the belief that if you get all these guys back with like 3-4 games left in the season, I think if they end up in a play-in scenario, they win that game. If they play Detroit in the first round, I'm not saying they win it, but a healthy Sixers team, I think, gives the Pistons a scare. If you're lined up against the Celtics, you are boned. That could be a sweep. And otherwise, like, I will give the Sixers the chance. I will give them a chance to have a competitive first-round series, unless it's against Boston. Boston, there's no hope. All hope is lost. You play the Knicks, I think you have a chance. You play the Cavs, I definitely think you have a chance. Pistons, not a great chance, but I think that they could cause some problems. Boston's the only one you really have to avoid. So, that's where I'm at right now on the Sixers. Los Sixers de Philadelphia. So, there you go. Now, I did start to address this, but this was when the mic was still off, so I am going to give you an update. No, not that one. Not the pretty low bar, Joe. This one from Chris Freed. That fasting has done some serious damage to Russ. All right, well, let me tell you. I'm going to give you a fasting update. Now, as I noted, and although I don't remember if it was when the mic was on or not, I've been drinking a black coffee this morning, which does not count as a fast breaker because there are no calories in black coffee. But I do have to come clean about something. The fast is over. It is. I'm going to tell you why. And then we're going to get into the Flyers, and we'll get into the Eagles news, and we'll get into the U.S. men's national team putting out their jerseys. And, of course, we have to get to Radio War. So a lot to get to. The fast is over. Here's what happened. What had to happen was, so I did the fast. I started the fast on Thursday night. I got to 24 and a half hours on Friday. So that was like 10 o'clock, 9:30. It was 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. And I was like, I could. If you've done a fast before, you'll know there's like a mental hurdle you have to get across. When I hit like hour 18, which is I think where I failed months ago, was about the 18th hour. When I got to hour 18, I felt like I was going to eat my own fist. When I got to 24 hours, I actually felt like, I could go to sleep. If I go to sleep, I'll pick up another 8 hours at least, and then I'll be able to hold myself off for at least 4 hours of being awake, and I'd easily get to 36 hours. That's how I felt. I actually felt good. My clarity was there. I felt good. But on Friday night, I don't know what it was. Actually, I do. I know it was 2 things. One, my wife decided that she was also fasting, and she was like 3 hours ahead of me. So we were both in the midst of a fast, so we didn't like make a normal dinner. She like baked some fish sticks. And I got to tell you, when you're 18 hours into a fast and you're already having a hard time, you smell fish sticks, and all of a sudden, you're like, that does sound like a good idea. And then I found jalapenos in the fridge. My wife made jalapeno popper dip. So at 10 o'clock, we broke the fast. I was at like 24 and a half hours. I think she got to like 27. And I was like, it's not that I need to eat. It's that I feel like I just want to eat. I want the comfort of eating. And so I broke the fast on, what night was that? Late Friday night. And then I thought about it and I was like, I think I'm going to do it again. I did. I was like, 32 hours is like totally in play. I think I'm going to do it. I'm not going to set 72. I think 72 is too ambitious. So I'm going to go back to 24. I'm going to do another 24 this week. If I can extend it to 36 or 48, cool. That's where we're at right now. So the fast is done, and I'm sorry. To anybody I let down, if you got a prediction market app to put out odds on me doing that, then by all means you can let me know. So yeah, got to 24 hours. And I also thought about it because I was like, I could get to 36, but then I knew that the real test was going to be the Flyers game. Would I be able to get through an entire Flyers game without eating anything? I don't know. Jim Cochran asks, what are you hoping to gain from this fast or lose? Lose my sanity, gain an appreciation for the world. I don't know. There's like a whole science to 24 versus 48 versus 72 hours about like your body kind of purging like old bad dead cells or something. So I'm willing to, within reason, try fasting. So we'll see. Nick Abe also brings this up. Remember Reddit saying, who is Russ Joy? No, they asked if Russ Joy is legit. I don't go on Reddit. Reddit scares me. Reddit confuses me. And I don't know if I actually like Reddit or not. But somebody did. They actually put out a thread or whatever on Reddit asking, is Russ Joy legit? Which was funny because then at the Flyers game on Saturday, I had people coming up to me saying, oh, Russ is real. He's real. He's not a hologram. He's not an AI chatbot. He's a real person. I'm a real boy. But in case you missed it, this is what happened last week. And then Crossing Broad, of course, ran a story on it because Kincaid couldn't help himself. This was Reddit last week. Is Russ Joy legit? Elsewhere in today's discussion, I read the idea of Fantilli offer sheet. But then I read it was suggested by someone named Russ Joy. I can find almost nothing on this person on X. Is he legit? Does he have sources? I no longer live in Philly, so I don't digest all of the media. We got to be honest here. If you search Russ Joy on X, you find me, okay? If you search Russ Joy on Google, you find me, okay? Like, this isn't hard. This person's not being real. To quote Logan Roy from Succession, this is not a serious person. I'm not saying I'm famous. I'm certainly not. I'm not saying I'm particularly popular. I don't think I am. But like, you just use the Google machine or go on any social media app, you find my name. I do exist. You go on Reddit and go into that Flyers thing. You'll see people poo-pooing my contributions to Snow the Goalie. This ain't hard. Anyway, there was a bachelor party at Xfinity Mobile Arena on Saturday, and these guys, they get off the elevator. They're like, hey, Russ, you're real. Those guys had a few. But I am in fact real. In case you were wondering if this is just an AI video the whole time. No, I am real. Okay, you want to know what else is real? Dan Vladar. We're going to talk about the Flyers quick. We'll get to the Eagles, get to the Union, and we're going to wrap up with Radio Awards because I got some thoughts. So the Flyers are in this weird spot that we all kind of knew that they were going to end up being in. They lose on Saturday, fall behind again. They continue to fall behind in games. Kudos to them that they dig themselves out of a hole, and it was only a 1-goal hole. They did a better job of shot suppression in the second period. Third period was a little bit wonky. There was a hit on Denver Barkey at one point that was reviewed for a major. It doesn't happen. Under review, it's a 2-minute minor. The Flyers end up, it's Barkey again late in the second period who gets cross-checked twice at 2 different spots on the ice. And so it's 4 minutes of power play time. They get about 30 seconds remaining in the second period, and then When they fail to score, it goes into the third period. So they spend the first 3.5 minutes of the third period with a man advantage. This power play is, inept would be a really nice way to put it. This power play is garbaggio. Somewhere in the world, I don't know where, somewhere Rocky Thompson is watching this power play and he is smiling ear to ear. There is actually a case to be made. This power play is even worse than the Rocky Thompson horror show because Rocky Thompson didn't have Trevor Zegras. Really, the personnel is largely similar, but can you imagine the difference of having a guy like Zegras on the power play and not? This is bad. Rocky Thompson actually would be a better alternative right now than what they've got right now. I saw somebody tweeting out Yogi is the power play coach. They're like, why doesn't Yogi get the hate that Rocky Thompson does? And it's clear because everybody loves Yogi. Yogi liked his picnic baskets, right? Hey, boo-boo. That's why. Nobody dislikes Yogi, I don't think. Not yet, at least. So listen, it's a weird spot that the Flyers find themselves in. I said on Friday's show, they realistically needed... I came up with a scenario where they went 8-5-4, right? Got them to 20 points. And I thought, I get you to 93 on the season. But just based on the teams that are ahead of them, I don't think 93 gets you in. I think you're out by 2 or 3 points. You probably need closer to 25 points of 34 games remaining. 30. You need 25 of the 34 points remaining in 17 games. Now you're down to 16 games. Only 32 points remain available. That's a Herculean task. I don't see it. I really don't. They've got a 3-game West Coast swing. They're playing the Ducks, the Kings, and the Sharks. And then you're back at home against Columbus next week. They play Detroit 3 more times. I think they have the Islanders in there somewhere. You are playing against the teams that are ahead of you in the playoff standings, but I don't know. If they get hot, I guess there's theoretically a chance. But Saturday's game was emblematic of what's been so frustrating with the team this year. Dan Vladar stands on his head. And in fact, the only goal that he gave up in the run of play is the one where there were 4 or 5, maybe even 6 shots on goal in that little stretch. It's a 15-second window. Just shot, he dives, shot, he dives, shot, blocked, shot, he dives. And then ultimately he can't get to the last one. And then he blames himself after the game. It's no. Dan, let's be real here. That's insane. It's not on Dan Vladar. He was on himself about allowing the goal in the shootout. No. Your team has guys whose job it is to put the puck in the back of the net on the other side. This team doesn't do it nearly enough. So you have a team that is offensively devoid of excitement, energy, creativity. They occasionally are able to put together enough plays to score enough goals to maybe win a close, low-scoring game. Once in a blue moon, they actually light the lamp 4 or 5 times. It feels like those games are few and far between. But realistically, this is the Dan Vladar show. If Dan Vladar were not on this team, this is a bottom 3, bottom 4 team in the entire league, without a doubt. If you had last year's goalie carousel of Ersson being hurt 3 times on the injured list last year, I think, you add that with Kolosov and Fedotov last year. If that crew were happening right now, bottom 3, bottom 4 record in the NHL. It does actually lead to a pretty interesting point, though. And I want everybody to think about this. Maybe we'll talk about it on Wednesday. If John Tortorella were still the coach here, would the Flyers be in the same spot? If Torts were the coach with Vladar, and the reason I ask is because, remember, where Tortorella has had the most success in his career, it's been when he's had incredible performances in goal. He did not at any point in his tenure here have that guy. Right? If you want to try to make a Carter Hart point, I guess you can, but I would disagree. I think Vladar right now is better than Carter Hart was even at peak Carter Hart in this city. He's more consistent between home road splits than Hart was for the majority of his tenure here. The Flyers today, as of recording, are 31, 23, and 12, sitting on 74 points. Currently out of the playoff standings right now. If they were to pick up, right now they're 5 points behind Columbus. They are 7 points behind the Islanders. If you want to look at where Boston is, I guess you certainly can. The They're 6 points behind Boston. Even with Detroit, they're 6 points behind Detroit. Like, this ain't it. This ain't it. They're going to have to go on an incredible run here over the last 16 games of the season. And I think at this point, just given how things are kind of laying out, 32 points remaining, I think they need to get at least 23 points. 23 of the 32 remaining. I don't see a path to it. I really don't. Even if you play that one out and you say, all right, so I say 23, so you need 20. So they need to have 10 and 3, so 10, 3, and 3 in their last 16 games. There is no way they're going to get there. Unless they somehow get incredibly hot, divine intervention, Porter Martone having a really short run with Michigan State in the college playoffs. Like, I don't see it. I just don't. All right, so that's where we're at right now. I don't see it for the Fly guys. I mentioned on Saturday, there was like a lot of conversation around, is this a must-win game? Is this the biggest game of the season? Is this a huge game? And I think people just aren't good at reading comprehension at this point. When I put out I said, anybody who tells you that Saturday's game was a huge game, tell them they need to get help. It's one game of a remaining 17. The number of points that they need to get, that doesn't change, right? If I think you need 23 or 24 points to get in, one game doesn't change everything. It certainly makes a bigger impact when it's Columbus because you're chasing them. But like realistically, if you need to go at this point 10, 3, and 3 over your last 16 to have a legitimate chance of being the 8th seed, well then guess what? Like that's where you're at. 10, 3, and 3. All right, Saturday's game doesn't change a whole lot. If they go out and fall flat on their face against the Ducks and lose in regulation, guess what? That's one of the 3 regulation losses you can have. If you want to pick up a loss, the West Coast swing probably isn't the worst place to do it. And at the same time, they need to start racking up the wins. I don't see it. I could be crazy. I don't know. But getting back to the thought experiment that I want us to all consider for Wednesday, would this team be in the same place if John Tortorella were the coach? I'm not sure they would. Do I think that Tortorella was a better coach than Tocchet? I do. I mean, I had my issues with Torts. I had my issues conceptually with Torts. But I think Torts has proven over a very long career where admittedly he has had some excellent netminders. Yeah, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach. Is Rick Tocchet a Hall of Fame coach as of right now? No. Do I think that Tortorella would have been able to figure out a way to raise the floor on this team a little bit? Yeah. I think with Torts here, you're probably closer to the 77, 78 point total where you're chasing or you're behind Boston by 2 points. You're behind the Islanders by like 3. I think that's possible. We'll talk about that on Wednesday. Remind me to come back to that. All right, so that's where we're at with the Flyers. Good job to Dan Vladar. We do have to have a conversation about Dallas Goedert. We got Goedert, we have the jerseys, and then we have Radio Wars. So we got to fly a little bit here. Dallas Goedert re-signing is probably the most impactful thing to happen on the offensive side of the ball for the Eagles this offseason. Now, of course, as soon as the news came out multiple times that the Eagles and Goedert had agreed to push back the date before like the dead money would count against the cap, it felt like as that kept happening, they were going to get a deal done with Dallas Goedert. And even though he's coming off a career year, he only got a $7 million contract, a 1-year, $7 million deal. He made $10 million last year. And when he's coming off of career highs, you would think like the dude would want to get paid. I am so torn on what this means, right? Because Dallas Goedert, if I remember correctly, is 31 years old. This is likely his final opportunity to go out and get a big contract as a tight end. Now, maybe Goddard's agent went and got a feel for his market, right? Got a feel from other teams, how much interest there was going to be for him and what that number was going to look like. And maybe ultimately Dallas Goedert said, you know what? I can make 7 and stay in Philly and have a chance to win another Super Bowl, right? Or I make 7 this year. Maybe there's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge that next offseason, as more money comes off the books, he's going to get an even bigger number. Like maybe that's possible. We don't know. But like, you almost kind of sit back and go, dude, but why would you take a pay cut? I mean, admittedly, good stuff, like good bit of business here from Howie Roseman. But I'm kind of shocked that Goedert and or his agent were like, yeah, well, the pay cut, 1-year deal. Like, if you get hurt, if you blow out a knee, like, you're not getting a big deal next offseason, you know? Now, if he goes out and he puts up another career high, maybe he opens himself up to $12 million, $14 million for a multi-year deal next year. Maybe it's here, maybe it's elsewhere. I'm honestly just kind of surprised. And at the same time, the thing I'm not surprised by is what conversation this led to, which is, Dallas Goedert and the Eagles were working on getting this deal done because they're still trying to figure out A.J. Brown. Well, if you remember last week, we heard that the Rams were interested in A.J. Brown and the Patriots were interested in A.J. Brown. And there were a bunch of teams that believe that they are very much out of the A.J. Brown sweepstakes, that the Eagles are going to hang on to him. And yet, as this Goedert thing is playing out in real time, you keep seeing and hearing, the Eagles are going to be committed to potentially still fielding offers for the guy. Like, I do have a question in that, like, at what point do the rumors around A.J. Brown and the Eagles stop? When do we get to that point? Because, to me, it's a concern, right? Like, and it has to be. At some point, the Eagles need to make it known to, like, every national media pundit, like, we're not doing this again. It's over. It's done. Or is this going to legitimately just be a thing? Like, A.J. Brown's on the roster right now. He's on the roster to start the training camp. He's on the roster to start the season. He's on the season to start the regular season. He's on the roster leading up to the trade deadline. Like, is this going to be a nonstop thing? Is there ever going to come a point where the national media people, Diana Rossini, stop talking about A.J. Brown? Will there ever be a moment? You know, like, I don't know. The cap hit. Like, the dead cap is the thing that always made me think there was no chance. But I don't know. I really don't know. So anyway, good job to the Eagles. Good job and good on Dallas Goedert for coming back at a reduced number this year. Again, I still don't understand why he did it, but good on him. It's obviously great news for Jalen Hurts. I think that very clearly this offense operates better when Dallas Goedert is healthy and in it. They need to do something to reinforce that offensive line. I still remain very, listen, I told you guys from the start, when the rumor first came out that Mekhi Becton was going to become available, I said, that's a guy that needs to come back here. And he still hasn't been signed anywhere. So, to me, Mekhi Becton makes all the sense in the world as a depth signing. Even if you don't ultimately want to have him start in this scheme, or you don't think he can find as much success in the scheme, still bring him in. It doesn't hurt. Bring him in at a low number. Give him another prove-it deal. Seems like Howie's very much in the prove-it deal kind of off-season. Cool. All right. I think we're there. I think we're done. Amadeo, by the way, says post-June 1st is when he's going to get moved. That's when the dead cap number changes. So I'm so sick of it. I'm sick of the discourse around it. All right, so we're done there. Two things. We still have Radio Wars, and we have the U.S. men's national team jerseys. I want to talk about the U.S. men's national team jerseys for a second. So they kind of paid homage. They didn't do the Where's Waldo jerseys, which were pretty god-awful back in the day. They at least were smart enough to undo that error. And then there was the 2022 World Cup jerseys that were revealed that looked like absolute dog doo-doo. They got it right this time. They really did. So they have two different jerseys they're going to be wearing. One is the stripes and the other is the stars. And so what we'll do here, I think we're going to be able to show this without having massive issues with the fine folks over at YouTube, but we'll cross our fingers and our tootsie toes that we're okay. But this is where the U.S. men's national team ultimately landed in terms of what they're going to be putting out. So here is the initial reveal. Now, if you look at the stripes jersey first, you'll notice that there's a wave to it, right? Which actually looks really good. Like, as players wear them and are moving around, it looks like the flag is waving in the breeze, which is pretty cool. If you look at the blue jersey looks really understated. It's not until they actually zoom in on the blue jersey that you understand what's so unique about it. And I think you guys could probably see here. Let me modify this a second so we can get a little bit of a better zoom in. Let's go here to this view. So if you look at the shoulder here, you'll see there are stars. Now, this reminds me of there was a U.S. Olympic jersey for hockey. I want to say it was the TJ Oshie shootout year, where they did the top half of the jersey were the understated kind of stars. I thought that's a pretty cool look. So it's all across the jersey. But again, it is very understated. If you're watching in a stadium, it's going to look to you like they're wearing a bland blue jersey. I saw Alexi Lawless put out that he thinks that these are very understated and kind of bland. The stripes, though, look really, really good. And again, when the players are running around with the stripes on, it looks really, really cool. So one of the cool things that also came out about this is that apparently the national team, I think it was the men's and the women's national teams, had a lot more input on these jerseys, these kits, versus 2022. 2022 was like a very widely hated rollout. And there was even a player, who was it that said it? I don't remember now. One of the men's players said that they are pretty convinced that they had more input on the kit than Nike did, and that there were a lot of reworks that had to happen. So that was really interesting. Now, Darkwing McQuack says they should have brought back the denim jersey for their aways. A denim jersey would have certainly been something, for sure. Would have been very interesting. Lawrence Fine thinks that the jerseys are ugly. Well, you know what, Lawrence? Maybe the jerseys think you're ugly, but we don't know. We don't see what you look like. You have a flag, and it's not the U.S. flag, and it's not the U.S. jersey. So maybe they don't know, Lawrence. They don't know how they feel about you, those jerseys. Connor Buss says it was Tim Weah that said that about the input. Lawrence. Lawrence says, I am ugly. I am ugly. I know ugly. Oh, Lawrence, you're not ugly. We don't actually know. We don't know. All right, so that's that. Now, last thing I want to get to today, little radio warziness. So Angelo Cataldi and Howard Eskin did a podcast together where they checked in on the current state. They weighed in on the current state of radio in Philadelphia. And it went about as well as you would imagine that it did, or that it would. Every single radio person who gets out of radio, they tend to feel more negative about the current crop than when they were at their peak powers. And I want to remind people, okay, Cataldi was so good at what he did when he was on the morning show, when he was running the morning show. He was fantastic at what he did. However, Angelo Cataldi was not my cup of coffee at all. It felt like the ultimate rage baiting show. And in fact, I would argue that it was about as much of a rage bait as any radio show in the entire Philadelphia market, not just sports. Cataldi was not my cup of tea, but I respected the fact that he was as successful as he was. And it didn't matter if he was up against Mike and Mike, right, through 97.5 doing the syndicated ESPN show. It didn't matter when Gargano rolled out his own morning show at 97.5. It didn't matter when Mark Farzetta did that show. It didn't matter when John Kincaid took over that show. I forget if there was another iteration there at some point. Like, Cataldi beat them all. Cataldi did an incredible job. He got the ratings. He got people locked in. I do think that there's just an inherent advantage that WIP has because they've got the Eagles, they've got the Phillies, and the way that tends to work is you don't really see player interviews, coach interviews, right, with Eagles players on the Fanatic. I can't really think of a time recently that we've seen that happen with the Phillies either. It's almost like a weird exclusivity thing when it comes to access to those guys, which I think is weird and also kind of counterintuitive for the teams, but whatever. But Cataldi and Howard Eskin kind of throwing out the idea that shows are not as good anymore or things are a mess at WIP now. I think that it's certainly a rich statement from those guys to make it sound like what they were doing was a nuanced program. Eskin was not a nuanced kind of guy. Eskin was calling people dimwits or whatever the hell he called them, right? there wasn't nuance to what Howard Eskin did in the afternoons, right? Cataldi didn't have nuance in the show that he was doing in the morning. This is just who these guys are. They were bloviators before bloviating was a thing. What they don't seem to like is the first takeification, the hot takeification. I could probably point to the fact that if social media were as big of a thing when Cataldi was at peak powers and when Howard Eskin was at peak powers in the afternoon, I would bet you that if social media were the same, if it were the same social media landscape, those guys would be getting clipped up in a similar way to how radio guys are now in Philadelphia. I don't think that would change. One thing I will tell you, though, is whenever somebody moves on from their career path, whenever somebody retires from a job that they held for a long time like Cataldi did, I think by the end, there's a good likelihood you're going to fall out of love for the thing that you've been doing all those years. I think that it's going to be a very difficult sell to somebody. You're going to be just as invested going in, like waking up at 3 a.m. or whatever to get into the station to do your show prep and to go and do a morning show and like have your entire life kind of flipped upside down from where most normal people have their hours. I don't think by the time you hit your, how many years did you go? 30 plus? Like by the time you get to your 24th year, are you just as excited to wake up every morning in the middle of the summer to do your show as you were in your 4th or 5th year, the day after an Eagles lost to the Cowboys? Like I would think no. The answer is no. But those guys went out and they kind of unloaded a little bit, noting that they don't really listen to WIP anymore. They don't really listen to anything. And Cataldi was quoted as saying, quote, "I stopped listening. I don't listen at all anymore. The reason is because I would hear something that I'd go, well, no, that's not the way you should do it. I did it for 33 years. I know how to do it. It got to the point where it was just so frustrating to me that I don't listen." Which kind of leads, again, to the first takeification of things. I mean, remember, when Spike Eskin went and took over the station before he went up to WFAN in New York, there was a feeling that the sentiment around the station was changing and that the structure of shows was changing and that there was a certain way that hosts were expected to do their shows and to engage with people online, and that was going to change. And then Spike went up to WFAN and everything remained essentially the same at WIP while he was gone, and he's come back and he's kind of fit like a glove going back in because this is how WIP kind of pivoted things, which is why then you see guys like Bill Colarulo was doing the make the switch pitch, and then you had John Marks also kind of calling out his former employer at WIP for similar kind of thing. I guess all of this is to say, I'm never surprised when somebody moves on from a career path and then they kind of like lob retroactive grenades at the place that they found a lot of success. I think that there certainly has to be a part of Angelo Cataldi that's not disappointed in the success that the morning show has had without him. But to my recollection from the last time I saw ratings, and it's been a while, I think that what the hell's his name? DeCamera. I always want to say Delicamera. That was the union announcer. DeCamera in the morning, I think has had as much success or more success in terms of opening that gap in the ratings than Angelo did against other versions of 97.5's morning show. And if you hold yourself in such high esteem and you're viewed as a legend in that space, right? Like there's probably a good part of you that kind of, sort of, at least a little bit wishes that there had been a dip and it makes it look like your success was next level and that no one else could ever fill your shoes. And just based on kind of like where things are at right now, maybe Angelo Cataldi's a little bit bitter that there wasn't as much of a drop off. You know, in the case of Howard Eskin, like he got beat straight up by Missinelli. And then Missinelli was kind of in that position to be the power guy in the afternoon until Josh Innes and Tony Bruno ate his lunch for a bit. And then Innes flamed out, and that was that. And then there is a certain level of ego. There has to be. But I got to be honest. It just feels like sour grapes from two guys that had a lot of success in this market. And like Cataldi's mostly gone away. Eskin's still kind of doing his thing, doing his own show, doing a podcast. Like, I don't know. I feel like life's too short to be bitter about things all the time, you know? In Eskin's case, like he had a very unceremonious end with the station and there were a whole bunch of allegations and, you know, I don't know. For Cataldi, though, like he kind of like went out the way that I thought he kind of wanted to, or the way that it kind of seemed like he wanted to. So it's just kind of weird to hear these guys having those kind of conversations. Now, whatever your thoughts are on the current version of radio, well, that can vary, right? Like WIP very clearly has a certain tone and a certain structure, and if you like it, it's your thing, and if you don't, 97.5 is there waiting for you to consider switching the dial, downloading their app, going and doing your thing there. Colarulo's made that pitch. John Marks has made that pitch. I saw this over here from Connor Buss. Says, I like the 97.5 morning show besides Kincaid. I like Unfiltered too. Middays aren't too bad. Only time WIP is on is for Phils or Eagles. We'll have to see. Like, and that, whenever the next rating book comes out, I'm going to be interested to see, like, what does Mark's show look like with Brace? Does that duo get the job done? Does it start to eat a bigger chunk or pull a chunk of Gilio and Hugh Douglas's audience away? I don't know if the afternoons are going to change that much. We'll have an eye on it. I think that if and when John Kincaid's contract expires, I think it will be a good thing for the Fanatic Morning Show. I think that that is a better show without him on it. I just don't, it's not my cup of tea. I don't get it. John Kincaid to me strikes me as like a quasi old school WIP guy. And I don't think it fits. I really don't. I don't think it fits the vibe of the station right now. So anyway, I will be back on Wednesday here on the Russ Joy Show. I'm supposed to be. Now, we have, 60 mile per hour gusts of wind coming soon. Unless something changes, I'm supposed to be on the Fantastic Sports Show on Fox 29 tonight. I'll let you know if it's happening or not. I'll let you know over on social media. If it does, I think it's at 6:30 tonight on Fox 29. You can go tune in there. But otherwise, I'll be back on Wednesday here on the Russ Joy Show. So until then, I've been Russ Joy. This has been the Russ Joy Show, but you knew that already because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. I'll talk to each and every one of you on Wednesday. Do me a favor, if you haven't done so already, like the video, share the video, subscribe, ring the bell to get notified whenever we go live with an episode. And if you see clips over on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, give them a like, follow those accounts. If you like the podcast feed, the show's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. So this has been the Russ Joy Show. I've been Russ Joy. I'll talk to all of you Wednesday. I am definitely a real person. I am not a hologram. Have a great day, everybody.